You ever have one of those days that starts out so peaceful you think nothing could possibly go wrong? And then, before lunch, you're standing in your own front yard watching your wife get handcuffed for planting flowers? Yeah, didn't think that could happen either. But that's exactly how my Saturday went down. It started simple enough. My wife, Lily, and I had driven up to our cabin just outside Boulder for a quiet weekend. No phones, no emails, no drama. Just us, the mountains, and her obsession with gardening. She's a third-grade teacher, so she's got that natural instinct to nurture everything. Kids, plants, stray dogs, you name it. She bought a tray of these bright orange marigolds on the way up, said they'd bring life to our sad little flower bed. I teased her about it, said the mountain air didn't care about flowers, but she just laughed and went to work with her trowel while I made coffee and pretended to help. The morning was perfect. Crisp air, the sound of wind in the aspens, that smell of pine you can't bottle no matter how hard candle companies try. Then I noticed her, the woman across the street, standing on her porch in khakis and a white polo, holding binoculars, watching Lily. At first, I thought maybe she was birdwatching. But no, her eyes were locked right on my wife like she was monitoring a suspect. I actually laughed, thought, well, that's a new level of HOA crazy, and went back inside. That right there was my first mistake. Around 10, the peace broke. Lily was on her knees, planting the last of her marigolds, when that same woman, let's call her Nancy Doyle, came marching across the street like she was leading a military inspection. She had a clipboard, a camera, and 2 people following her, a woman in a cheap security uniform and a younger guy who looked like he'd been hired off Craigslist. "Excuse me," Nancy called out, her voice sugary sweet but sharp underneath. "I need to document these unauthorized plantings for a violation report." Lily blinked up at her, dirt on her hands. "Violation report? For what?" "I'm just planting flowers." Nancy took pictures like she was building a case file. Click, 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 muttering into her phone about non-native species and architectural committee approval. I came outside and said, as calmly as I could, "Ma'am, we don't even have an HOA out here. You must be mistaken." She gave me this pitying smile that made my blood boil. "Ignorance of community standards is not a defense, sir. You have 2 hours to remove these illegal plantings, or enforcement action will be initiated." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Enforcement action? Over flowers. That's when she leaned toward Lily and said softly, "You don't have to protect him anymore. Help is coming." That stopped me cold. Protect her from what? I asked, but Nancy was already walking away, calling someone on her phone like she'd just completed phase 1 of a hostage rescue. I told Lily to ignore her, that we'd handle it later, but she looked uneasy. She said, "Jack, that woman's not right." And she was right about that. 40 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up in front of our cabin. Real uniform, real badge. And my stomach dropped. Nancy had convinced an actual deputy that there was some kind of domestic situation happening at our house. He came up holding paperwork and said, "Mr. Parker, we've had reports of intimidation and possible abuse. We need to ask your wife a few questions." Lily's mouth fell open. "What? Abuse? Of who?" Nancy appeared again, phone raised high. "I'm live streaming for transparency," she announced. "We're documenting federal intimidation in real time." That's when I realized she'd been broadcasting this circus the whole time, to hundreds of viewers, all watching her play hero. Her fake guards flanked my wife while Nancy told the deputy, "This man's a federal agent who abuses his position to control her." The deputy looked at me, wary. "Sir, are you in law enforcement?" I sighed, pulled out my badge. "Yes, U.S. Marshals Service. And this, whatever this is, has gone way too far." But before I could finish, Nancy screamed, "See? He's using his authority to intimidate us." And the live chat exploded. Comments flying across her screen. "Corrupt cop. Get her to safety." The deputy hesitated, torn between logic and optics, while Nancy's fake guards actually tried to lead Lily away for her protection. When they snapped handcuffs on her wrists, something inside me switched. 18 years of training took over. I stepped forward, voice steady and cold. "Everyone stop. United States Marshals Service. You're all committing a federal crime." Everything froze. The deputy's hand hovered near his weapon. The guards stumbled backward. Lily just stared at me, wide-eyed. "Release her," I said, showing my credentials. You're under arrest for impersonating law enforcement and unlawful detention. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Rob, the wannabe security guard, fumbled with the cuffs and freed Lily. Nancy's face went white as her phone kept streaming, the comment section suddenly full of question marks and panic emojis. Later that day, after the county confirmed there was no HOA, no community committee, no nothing, the truth unraveled fast. Nancy had been running a fake enforcement scam for months, charging neighbors fines for imaginary violations, even threatening legal action. She'd built her own little empire of control, and my wife's marigolds were just the final spark that blew it all open. But here's the kicker. By then, her live stream had already gone viral. The edited clips made me look like the villain. Federal agent bullies old lady over flowers was trending on 3 platforms before the truth even caught up. Reporters camped outside our cabin. Commentators debated my abuse of power. Lily cried reading the comments. People calling her brainwashed, calling me dangerous. Then something unexpected happened. Our neighbor, old Bob Miller, uploaded his own footage from another angle, the full version. It showed Nancy coaching her fake guards, rehearsing lines, even saying, "This'll go viral for sure." Within hours, the internet flipped. The hashtags changed from hashtag federal abuse to hashtag Nancy lied. But Nancy wasn't done. She announced a rally for justice on Sunday to expose government overreach. She set up chairs, banners, even hired her nephew to film it like a press conference. Maybe 45 people showed up, some supporters, some just curious. Lily and I watched from our porch, holding hands, not sure whether to laugh or hide. Then a patrol car pulled up. Deputy Ruiz, same guy as before, stepped out with a folder in his hand. He waited for her to finish her opening speech about tyranny before saying, loud enough for the mic, "Mrs. Doyle, you are being served with charges for fraud, impersonation of a peace officer, and unlawful detention." Nancy blinked, grabbed the microphone, and said, "You see? This is proof of what I've been saying, government silencing citizens." But the crowd started shifting. Ruiz kept reading, "There is no homeowners association in this area. No architectural committee. Mrs. Doyle has been collecting illegal fees from residents for over a year." You could feel the air drain out of the place. People looked around at each other, confused, embarrassed. And then, to make matters worse, Nancy tried to play her evidence video on a projector, the one she'd edited to make me look violent. Only the file name popped up on screen first. HOA_roleplay_final_v3.mp4. Silence. Then whispers. One guy laughed out loud. Nancy froze, then started rambling about hackers and conspiracies. But her own helper, Margaret, the older woman, stood up, shaking. "She lied to me," she said into the mic. "I thought this was official. I never meant to handcuff anyone." Then Rob showed up with a box of fake badges and dumped them on the table. "I'm done," he said. Within minutes, half the crowd was gone, folding chairs clattering in the grass. Nancy just kept shouting, tears streaking her makeup, claiming she was the victim of a cover-up. And then, in this trembling voice, she said, "Emma would understand. Emma would want justice." That name hung there like a ghost. Nobody knew who Emma was, but later, we found out. She'd been Nancy's daughter, killed 2 years earlier in a car crash caused by a texting driver who barely got probation. That's when Nancy snapped. Her obsession with rules, control, enforcement, it all started as grief. She thought if people followed every rule, no one would ever die like Emma again. 2 months later, Nancy pleaded guilty. Fraud, impersonation, unlawful detention. The judge sentenced her to a year in county jail, probation, and restitution to every neighbor she'd scammed. But instead of pocketing the fines, the judge ordered the money to build a memorial garden in Emma's name, right in the community park. Lily volunteered to help with the design. She planted a row of yellow marigolds, same as the ones that started all this. When spring came, they bloomed bright under the mountain sun, and for the first time in months, I felt the knot in my chest loosen. One morning, I saw Nancy there, quiet, planting flowers in the memorial garden as part of her community service. No cameras, no clipboard, no uniform. Just her, kneeling in the dirt, trying to do something good. Lily asked if we should say hi, but I shook my head. Some apologies don't need an audience. Now, every time the wind hits those metal wind chimes hanging over Emma's garden, made from pieces of the fake badges Nancy used. It makes this soft, hollow sound, like the mountain itself is exhaling. It reminds me that control is fragile, and sometimes justice isn't about punishment. It's about learning when to let go. So yeah, that's how a few marigolds almost ended my career and started a viral war. But maybe it also gave a broken woman one last chance to grow something beautiful from her own mess. What do you think? Was justice served, or did grief make her a victim of her own pain? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell me if you've ever had a neighbor go completely off the rails. I'll be reading.